special guest. We have got Dominic from California, but in just a little bit.
Ones that she opens, you have Kamala, you have Hillary, Pelosi, Obama behind Jill, and we'll talk about that a little later about how we believe they are the ones that should be going in front of a judge and going to jail and not President Trump. Liz, as Trump says all the time, he did nothing wrong.
That's right. And in just a little bit, I want to read you guys a statement that came out from MAGA Inc. earlier today saying everything we need to know. But right now, I've got a special guest. We have got Dominic from California, but now Miami. I'll just let you reintroduce yourself a little bit about you, your background in politics, and what you're doing here today.
Well, cool. Awesome. Thank you for having me. Hi, my name is Dominic. As she said, I was born in Los Angeles, so I've seen blue, I've seen Democrat, and I grew up here in Miami, and I've seen red. Growing up, I never really made sense of any of this. I was just another kid, right? Just kind of doing my own thing, working in cameras, computers, and media. And as I grew up, I get out of college, I see what happened with Trump in the first election. I was bamboozled at first.
I love that word.
Yeah, I was following the news because here I thought, okay, it's the news. It's the biggest outlets ever. Like, they have to be telling the truth until you realize, wait a second, when you actually watch a full rally of Trump, they're completely twisting what he's saying. They completely cherry-picked it. And that's what pretty much set off the motion every year after that, like, okay, hold on. I started supporting Trump more and more and more and more and more until the 2020 election, and I was like, hold on, this went haywire. Everything is absolutely backwards and wrong. So it's been a journey to completely get rid of the old thoughts. And
it's hard.
It is.
Sometimes you second guess yourself, but then you come and experience things in real life and you realize that they are completely lying to you, mainstream media, that is. Now, you're very well spoken, but you also just briefly mentioned that you have a little background in media and computers. So could you elaborate on that and what you do?
Yeah, so I work a lot in marketing, media. I understand how to take an interview, chop it up, and make it sound exactly what it's not, but I also understand how to take the message and shorten it and make it concise to sound exactly what it was. I know about media manipulation. I see how AI is affecting a lot of people and how people are using it for manipulation. I see how you could take one angle and show another angle and paint two different stories entirely. It's just been my thing, yeah, and getting more involved with politics. My very short background in journalism, due to some classes that I took, started growing more. And well, you watch you guys, I watch the big news, and you see they do it, and you see what not to do, and you see what to do. You just start to make sense of it. You really start to understand it and how they fight the game, and you learn how to apply yourself, because the way Antifa, the way the Democrats do it, the way they set fires and blow things up, as tempting as it may be, because people get angry and you just want to kind of punch a wall and really kind of send everything to hell. It's not the right way to do it. You got to be able to control your emotions, for one, and you got to be able to fight the right fight without really throwing a punch.
Yeah, it's hard sometimes, but we have to remind ourselves to stay peaceful. I remember one time I was trying to not even do an interview, but just have the camera on. I was holding the microphone, and we were letting Marjorie Taylor Greene do a press conference in Washington, D.C., and this crazy protester was just blowing this whistle so loud in my ear. It took everything in me not to just turn around and punch him, but I didn't, so hopefully I get some points for that one.
A lot of points.
So what brought you out here today? Let's talk about what's going on. President Trump's arraignment here. It's going to be at 3 p.m. There's so much to kind of dive into, but for starters, what brought you here? And then we'll talk about whether you think the Department of Justice is doing a fair job.
I like to learn. I like to educate myself. So at the fundamental thing is to see everything myself. And, with all the confusion back and forth, and even after the Trump election with the J6 incident and all the nonsense going back and forth, and then what's happening with Ron, it really sends you in a whirlwind, a spiral. It makes you start questioning everything unless you 100% back Trump. And again, this is coming from someone who was like confused at first, and then I was solely in for Trump. And then because I supported DeSantis, I started questioning, like, why is he attacking him? Like what's going on? Like, you'd think that Ron would have been an actual good candidate, a good representative for us, but then you start to see the small things that he's doing in order to move the way he's moving, right? To get the power that he wants. Exactly. You get to see, yeah, like when you hear him speak, you get to actually hear what other people are saying in his ear that he regurgitates. And his actions reflect what other people are telling him to do and paying him to do, right? So it's a lot to really just see for yourself. But then, yeah, man, Trump's really fighting for us at the end of the day. No matter what you want to believe, like no matter what you see, he really is.
So not long ago, we were in New York City covering President Trump's first arraignment. Now we're here in Miami. He's getting arraigned federally today. Do these charges brought on by the justice system, do they deter you from your support for President Trump?
It's kind of me. It's always making. It's loud. It's kind of making me support him more every single time. That's how it began from 15, 16, 17. The more you attack him, I start to realize, like, man, if he was really this bad, how did he become president? So you listen to him for yourself, and then you realize, man, he's really not. He's really not.
You said you came out here today to kind of see for yourself what was going on. Part of my job is showing the world what's going on, not editing, not splicing, but talking to him. But I'd love to get words from someone other than me, someone that's not, with Right Side Broadcasting Network, that's been doing this for 6 years, because you see things from a different lens than I do. So what have you seen here today? Let's talk about the support. We can talk about the protesters who are anti-Trump, the amount of media coverage. What are your thoughts so far on his arraignment in Miami?
So America has obviously always stood for diversity, unification. It's what happened back in the 1700s, the late 1700s. A band of immigrants run away, they fight tyranny, and here we have the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence. So it's a mixed bag, like a bag of jelly beans. You have some bad ones, the ones you don't like, some bad tasting ones. Just kind of put them to the side, you ignore it. We don't set it on fire, we don't squish the jelly beans, we just kind of put them to the side. So yeah, right, you just go, don't eat it, pass it on to the next person. You see some people who are counter-protesters, but they're not even being hurt. Like, if you were to counter-protest at another protest that's for Biden, Kamala, for Obama, yeah, you completely would just be pushed away. You would be swamped with yelling. You'd be inundated with whistles and horns. You name it, anything to really annoy you and piss you off. Like, you're going to see that. But here, you don't really see that. Sure, people have been heated. Like I said, you're going to get a mixed bag of jelly beans. So you're going to get a more spicier jelly bean. You're going to get a more vanilla jelly bean. But they're all jelly beans nonetheless, and we're all come from the same bag, and that bag is the United States of America. And when you see, right? And when you see this, I'm glad. when you see this all together, like you see what the people are really saying, because when you see people actually disagreeing but still standing in the same area and supporting that ultimate same message, then you really understand how that level of free speech works, and the diversity coming together under one union, right? I don't want to say union like an organization, but we're united, right? We're united in that regard. And what was most interesting to me is that you have a guy running around in prisoner stripes, black and white stripes, and he's against Trump, and everyone's actually just talking to him. You don't really see people like yelling at him. You don't see him pushing. You don't see him shove. Like, none of that stuff. And that's the key difference. That's the key difference. I don't want to say that everything's going to be all sunshine and rainbows, because it's clearly not. If it's not for Trump, how is it going to be for us? That's how we stand for it. But when you have people running around who are against you, but even then they still have the ability to protest and be who they are, that's the key difference. And that's what no one ever seems to acknowledge, because they think it's always the little things. They think it's like the big thing. They think you have to see a giant fight and a brawl to make changes. No, it's always the smallest detail, and that's as little as giving attention or not giving attention to people here.
That's what we've learned in our history books in school. So why, when it comes to Trump, is that a bad thing? Very interesting. Now, I want to know, I think one of the hot topics today is about the Department of Justice and whether or not they've been, applying the rules of justice evenly. Some of the main things that come to mind for me is this is my second time seeing President Trump arraigned in the past year, but I have yet to see an arraignment or indictment even on Joe Biden, whether it comes with funneling funds to Ukraine or his son with the Hunter Biden laptop scandal, even Joe Biden with the amount of classified documents that he had as vice president or as senator, but not even as president of the United States, who has the right to declassify that information. So what do you think of the Department of Justice and the FBI in this? Do you think that they are harming or hurting themselves?
They're not working as hard as they should, in my opinion. They are a little distracted on some other things. They're working slow because I know they are allowing themselves to be beholden to the public opinion. I understand that Kavanaugh had to deal with public scrutiny, and he understands how much he had to deal with. And so I can understand that these justices are moving very cautiously, but maybe too cautiously. And that's where the bias comes in. right? It's people want to say it's the system, but the system is there. It works. And the problem is the bias between these people, the bias behind these people. And not only that, I'm pretty sure they're being coerced to some capacity and bribed. I can't say that for a fact, but there's an influence behind the scenes that's causing them to be a little cautious, a little, let me be careful here, and with officials and authorities who are representing us, who are in power, saying the things that they're saying out of their own bias on formal official documents. The Supreme Court can only take these formal official documents, but the problem is the information they're being given on these documents, on this information, a lot of it's very disingenuous. When you're able to read through all the political jargon, you actually can tell the tonality of which these people are writing. I could read the pettiness, and it's very, very structured, very formal language. And with that, you're like, okay, it's official. But when you really can like read through the lines, you could see the bias, you could see the pettiness, you could see the disdain for Trump and how they actually go after him, right? So I think that's what it means to really be strong, is to really hold down in your faith. It's never a fight of like fisticuffs, right? It's never going to be fist to fist, and that's the worst case scenario. But that's what it means to really be strong, is you got to stand by those ideals and values, regardless of how many millions of people are going to be yelling at you and tweeting at you, probably giving you death threats and dox, whatever it may be.
And finally, do you think President Trump is going to be found guilty for the 37 counts of declassified information?
I hope not. It's a scary thought. It's the whole deal with Ron DeSantis and Trump and anyone else. I try to be very, very slow to these types of opinions, but because things are so important and so heated, it's very hard to not generate a quick opinion.
Of course. What you want versus the reality.
Exactly. I really want to stand by Trump. I really want to believe him. I don't know what happens behind the scenes, right? I don't know how much. So, right, it's fair to take a public news article, which is public. It doesn't need to be classified or declassified. It's public information. It's public knowledge, right? It's public property, rather. I guess if you would say that. They want to use that, which is obviously true. Like, I'm sure he grabbed a newspaper or two, right? They want to use that against him, right? And to be able to do that, that's the scary part, because that seems fair game to me. He shouldn't really be indicted for those things. And I know there's a lot of other information and documents there that were absolutely planted, because this is the way the CIA has been working. That's what they did in J6. I was tweeting at Trump a lot. I was tweeting at the police. I was tweeting at the CIA, FBI, all of it, because I saw the way people were acting. I saw Antifa. I was not happy with a lot of the official behavior. I tweeted at Pelosi. I was saying, wasn't threatening her, but I was saying mean things, right? Like, hey, you need to do your job, like this, or the mayor, right? Like, hey, why are you allowing the police to be underfunded or under-equipped, right? You're allowing these things to happen, right? So you try to hold them accountable as much as you can, as best as you can, especially when DC's over there and I'm over here and all that stuff is happening. So when you see these things, you start to realize, like, they're just not playing fair. And sure, like, let me backtrack a little bit. Sure, these documents, like the boxes of newspapers, right? Like that's if it was there or not, I'll believe it was there. Like, this is just newspapers. That shouldn't be enough for an indictment to put them under all this, right? This is nonsense. It doesn't matter how much you dislike them. There's a lot of people that I dislike, but I've always given them the fair opportunity, because I just rather avoid the drama. Clearly, I'm not avoiding it by being here, but it's better to fight it a better way, right? Because I've already seen people get heated against each other and try to alleviate that tension a little bit, but yeah, I just don't think it's fully fair, and I think a lot of things were planted. I've seen too much on Twitter, like these pipe, like that pipe bomb that happened on J6, right? That was suspicious. I saw propane tanks all over. I saw propane tanks being planted nearby the rally the night before. That's why I was tweeting at that stuff. I'm like, yo, you guys gotta check this out, because that's dangerous, and I think I got in trouble for that.
How can our audience follow you if they want to stay up to date with any of this? It sounds like you're pretty active on social media. So do you have a Twitter handle or a truth handle they can subscribe to?
Yeah, so I'll be I'll be more of a public opinion rather than a journalist at the end of the day. But I do use journalism tactics to find my information so that I could generate a more formal opinion. LDQ Domo, Truth, and Twitter. Work with media and marketing, LDQ Productions. So you can see, you see how I work in this space.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Thank you so much, Dominic. I appreciate you coming over and giving us some of your insight on what's going on here today.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right, you guys, I want to talk to you about our friends over at Blackout Coffee. I haven't quite turned around, so I'm going to continue.